What's the creepiest thing you have ever seen through your bedroom window? My wife and I were awakened in the middle of the night by what sounded like a loud scream in our backyard. What really freaked us out though was there was a silhouette of someone on the drawn window blind. I ran through the house to grab my highest power flashlight, then back to the bedroom. I tried looking out the adjacent window but didn't see the person even when I used the flashlight, but the person's silhouette was still on the drawn blind. I finally decided to pull the blind back, fully expecting some freak to be on the other side, but no one was there. It turned out to be an owl sitting on the fence silhouetted by my neighbor's garage light. TL, doctor awakened by scream, thought some freak was looking in our window, turned out to be an owl. Used to live in a basement apartment in a reasonably nice end of town. Had been there a few months, no issues. One night, late summer, I was laying in bed, watching a movie, whilst the dog had adopted about a month prior was laying on my feet, sleeping. 110 pounds, Senior Ratty X. Window was open, as I normally opened it in the evening for fresh air when the weather was decent. About 10 p.m, I hear nothing, but my dog snaps awake, snarling, flies at the open window, knocks the screen out, and all I hear is "oh shit." I look out the window, and there is a screwdriver on the ground. Turns out this guy was trying to break in, using a screwdriver to quietly remove the screen. Moved to an 8th floor unit very shortly afterwards. Also got my dog back about an hour later, uninjured. Our CMP had gotten a few calls, including mine, about this guy seen at other complexes around my neighborhood, and one picked up my dog along the way. They also caught the guy, and from what I understood, he was wanted on multiple warrants. Live in Detroit's right on the border between a safer neighborhood and Detroit, so I tend to see quite a bit from my window. Maybe not creepy, but the scariest would have to be getting an alert for an active shooter and only to see a guy matching the exact description just wandering around across the street. We have an old farm that we let an animal rescue keep rescued abused horses on. One of the horses, a gigantic Clydesdale named Harvey, had a badly scarred, half-skeletal-looking face. He was a walking nightmare, despite being about as dangerous as a wet saltine. One spring I was sleeping with the window open because it wasn't quite warm enough for the AC. I was woken up by a nuzzling on my leg and assumed it was one of my cats. Then I realized, wait, my cats shouldn't be in here. My window's open. So I opened my eyes and there is Harvey the hell horse, eating my blanket. I sat up and screamed, causing him to startle and rip my window out of my fucking wall. My pulse was elevated. My neighbor, older woman, looking right through it, with her hands on the glass to see better, like this. I got out to ask her if she needed help. Her response was no, I'm just looking. And she walked away. After she probably stood there for 4 hours, my brother saw her standing there earlier. She did this every day for half a year. Turned out she was mentally ill and absolutely harmless. But it creeped me out and made me paranoid for a few weeks. One day she was gone for a few months. She's back now but doesn't look through my windows anymore. Now she's standing on the ground floor, looking through the door outside. I miss her. A very well-to-do looking man who didn't appear to be drunk or high, walking down the street at about 2 a.m, he stopped, got down on his knees, and started having a conversation with the darkness through the grills of a sewer drain. I couldn't hear what he was saying. It appeared to be a two-way conversation. He would pause, nod, gesticulate from time to time. Lasted around 20 minutes. And no, he didn't drop anything down there. I saw the whole thing. I have no explanation. My husband and I rented the upper floor of the house and another couple rented the bottom floor. They usually went to work early and didn't come home until the dinner hour. I was very pregnant and alone at home during the day. I had just gotten out of the shower, towel barely wrapped around me, to see that someone was outside my bedroom window in my side yard. He didn't see me because he was trying to lure the neighbor's dogs to the fence by shaking a bottle of pills at them. He was wearing a large trench coat, underwear and no shoes. I called 911 kinda naked and they came immediately. Turns out my downstairs neighbors had a house guest, which is fine, I guess, but he really was trying to drug the neighbor's dogs. Who knows why, because they were quiet, sweet dogs. Neighbors were called and they kicked him out immediately and apologized for scaring me. Still, I had a friend come over while I was there alone that day. Not seen but heard what sounded like a young woman pleading and crying. It was a hot summer night in Chicago, so I had my windows open. "Please no. No, oh God no!" Followed by a gruff male voice shouting back. I go outside to investigate, holding a hockey stick. I walk up the alley between my house and the neighboring apartment building. Nothing. No lights on, no more voices. A few nights later I hear the same voices. "Please, I'm begging you, don't do it." Followed by muffled angry male shouting. I walk out again, hockey stick in hand. Again, nothing. I walk into the neighboring building's backyard to see if someone is there. Nothing. I say, "Can anyone hear me?" in as calm a tone as possible, holding onto the hockey stick for dear life. Nothing. About a week later, in the middle of the day, I hear this voice again. "Come on please. Please." I go outside and stand on my front porch. There, I see a young teen boy, pleading with his dad, who I can clearly hear now. "I told you once, I told you again, you don't do your homework, you don't get to play Xbox." The dad walked to his car, Xbox in hand, with this kid screaming bloody murder from the front porch. I wonder if Batman ever had to deal with this shit. My neighbor's bathroom light on. Obviously it doesn't sound creepy initially, but to this day the story, it still gives me chills. Growing up in my childhood home, we had a neighbor who was very eclectic, but very nice. 99% sure he was on a lot of heavy drugs, and he would leave for weeks/months at a time cause he traveled and worked with the circus. He was also a heavy cigarette smoker. He would take baths every night and I could sometimes faintly hear his loud smoker's cough from my window. One night I saw his bathroom light on, heard him cough a little, then it was quiet. The next night the light was on, but he was oddly quiet this night. No coughing. Same thing the next night, and the next, and the next, and the next. Come to find out, he had suffered a heart attack while he was in the tub and had been in there dead for almost 5 days. His body was only discovered because his roommate came home and found him. Frown. Makes me so sad to think he died all alone. When I was a teenager I woke up one night to fighting outside, and this one guy was hitting this other guy with a belt all crazy, talking about how he stood up for him and all this. The weird thing is the guy just was taking it and not fighting back. I think it might have been some sort of gang thing. I was awakened by this scratching noise to find a creature that I cannot for the life of me recognize as anything I've ever seen at my window, trying to pry it open with tiny paws. It looks like a cross between a weasel and a rat, but I will never forget the fur on this creature. It looked like it hadn't cleaned itself in days, and its fur made this creature unrecognizable to the point that I need to put my face about 2 feet from it with only a pane of glass between us just to see if I can recognize it. It clearly wanted in, but thankfully, the apartment window is secure. I recall there being a second one, but it wasn't any more recognizable to me in the slightest. I don't know you would consider this a creepy thing, but it did scare the shit out of me. There was this huge storm passing by monsoon season in Arizona. It was like 2 in the morning and the storm woke me up, so I went to look out my window, see some light and hear how bad the wind is. The wind picked up the empty trash can in my backyard and it flew about 20 feet and hit my window. I was standing there watching the storm, looking up at the pitch black sky, when a big plastic trash can comes flying at my window. I jumped back so far. I was lucky my window didn't break. If it did, I would have been fucked for the rest of the night. It poured for a good 5 hours after that. A man urinating from his roof. Ugh, so disgusting. When I first moved to Manhattan, we lived in an apartment that faced a light shaft. About 7 feet from my living room window was the next apartment's living room window. As soon as new neighbors moved in, I immediately thought, yeah, one day we're gonna be caught looking at each other. Sometime later I got up in the middle of the night to pee. I glanced out the window and saw the shadowy figure of my neighbor standing and looking at her window, in the dark. Gave me chills and freaked me out. From then on, I just don't look out the window when I get up at night. Not me, but my mom. She has a sliding glass door that she sleeps with open because my cat used to wake her up wanting in and out of it at all hours of the night. Well, One night she wakes up with 2 men in her room and a flashlight in her face. She jumps up and realizes it was 2 cops. They asked her if anyone came in. Apparently someone on the run ran through our backyard while she was asleep with the door open, and luckily enough the guy didn't notice and ran on. She just leaves her actual door open now. My cat can deal with it. Not the creepiest thing I've seen, but heard. So I grew up in an old farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. No neighbors close. We had been having issues with coyotes coming at night and eating our chickens, cats, and even approaching our dogs during broad daylight. 2 of them had gotten particularly close to my 3-year-old sister once. My dad had had enough. So he invited his buddies over and they sat on the porch in the middle of the night, waiting for the coyotes to come so they could shoot them. Sad, I know / My brother and I were listening through the open window, mostly to the conversation of our dad and his friends. Suddenly, the coyotes were close and the guns started firing. Then, silence. After about 10 seconds, there was a low, raspy voice that said, "Did you get him?" Our entire family was spooked. Like I said, there were no neighbors close. Nobody was ever seen. To this day, we still wonder who or what that was. I am Australian. In summer, I like to keep the windows open all night. Possums like to make noises at night that sounds like a demon gargling battery acid. The Hat Man. I remember googling Shadow Man with a hat years later, because the memory was so vivid in my mind. But it was a form of a man wearing a broad-brimmed hat but all in black, and I just remember seizing up when I saw him. Then I turned away for a second and when I looked back, he was gone. 3 AM I heard a scuffle outside. Now this isn't so odd, we have a den of foxes across the street from me and they had recently had kids, so I crept to my window hoping to see some cute kids playing together, which I sometimes can. Instead I saw 2 men in masks with a crowbar trying to literally rip my neighbor's window out of the wall. The house my roommates and I were renting was in good shape, but the house next to us was abandoned. There was some kind of family inheritance dispute about which of the 4 grown children of the deceased former resident would get the house, which resulted in none of them living there, but coming by every month and cleaning things up and doing general maintenance. Well, as we were fairly close to the downtown area, the abandoned house was a popular squat for the homeless in the area. We refer to it as the Hobodrum, as almost every night there you could hear homeless people fighting or fucking or screaming at iguanas or whatever they did in there. I've seen it all, but my favorite was the guy taking a dog and a litter of puppies in to get out of the cold. We left a big bag of dog food and some blankets out for them. I didn't see this but rather heard. I just moved to the city and had maybe 15 feet between my studio apartment and the trailer next door. I heard arguing and words of "Get off me, stop fucking me, stop." I called the cops immediately. But before they arrived I heard door slams and a car peeling off. I hoped she was okay. I woke up one morning and started making eggs. I'm half asleep still, frying eggs, and I looked to the right to the living room, and this old lady is standing there right outside the window staring at me. She is staring in my direction but could very well have been brain dead. I put on some pants and finished making breakfast and started getting ready for work, and she ended up moving but still sort of standing around looking in another direction. I had to run to work, and have never seen her again.